Good morning, gang. It is Monday, a rainy Monday. And if you're in Atlanta, I can tell you all about what you're about to get via 99.1 WDJY. If you're down here in Tampa with me, you know what we just dealt with, and I'm not actually finished with it yet. That's why I'm a little nervous. Day one of Up the Middle and the news program that we're putting together with it, going 5 days a week. So I'm very excited about that. We are on 99.1 WDJY in Atlanta. Another Atlanta based station, but it's internet. So it's everywhere. And that is, I gotta, America One Radio.com. Progressive talk. And to be fair, it's something that they deserve, the progressive liberal side of the political spectrum. Because I'm looking at all of the terrestrial stations that have minimal progressive programs on terrestrial. And I think that's the libs are a little bit more tech savvy. They're getting podcasts, they're getting internet radio. But yeah, and up the middle, we're neither. We're both. We're everything. Equally biased, equally offensive, equally boring when it comes to news, which we'll do today at some point with something. Hopefully, besides just weather. If you're getting any information in the Florida area about the onshore winds on the Gulf side pulling back, give us a call at 1-888-88-YERGS. You can call now. Let us know how you made out. Hurricane Debby started as a tropical storm last night by around, I think it was like 7 or 8 in the evening or 11. Trying to think. I read a friend's post on Facebook. I'm trying to think of what time she posted that. I think it was later in the evening, I think. And then I got a message at about 20 after 7 this morning that Debby hit ground. And yeah, now it's stalled. Awesome. Because we're about to hit high tide on the northern end of the Tampa Bay and what's called the Nature Coast. We've already got high tide conditions because of the surge from during low tide. Thank God that happened during low tide. But question is, will it clear out? And I doubt it. I think we're going to see some coming over the seawall. Hopefully this is our one. Of course, there's another system right behind it. And we may be joining or getting joined by, depending on how you look at it, one of my other stations. I'm on 1490 WWPR down here in Tampa Bay every Friday. And they're having electrical issues and obviously other hurricane related issues. And they're aware that we're live here so that in the event that I can help them out with providing some news, I'm here for them. You can also provide us, let us know what you've got going on. News, NEWZ, at YERGZ, YERGZ.com. If you're watching through any of the social media platforms that have video, it's on the screen. Again, news, NEWZ, at Yergz, YERGZ.com. Day one of us going 5 days a week with Up the Middle on not only 99.1 WDJY in Atlanta, but also all of our social media, Yergz Radio, Rainbow Radio, eventually the America One Radio that's also in Atlanta. We're on replay there now. We're also on replay in the UG. Think of the underground, the UG.media in London. So hello to everybody there. They're branding us, I think, something like the ears and the mouth of the UK across the pond. Something like that. Whatever. But yeah, so kind of, I don't know if you can hear it, but I'm a bit stressed. I'm very much looking forward to seeing water receding. It hasn't made it over our seawall yet. I know there are places in my neighborhood that are considerably lower than that, who I know will be experiencing flooding right now, especially if this gets worse. I'm still another probably 2 feet above the seawall at the house. And it's supposed to be, I don't even want to think about it. So for today, shout out to everybody listening on Yergz Radio and our Yergz Radio Facebook page, Yergz Media on D Live, Yergz Media on Twitch, Talk TV 24 on YouTube. We're at Up the Middle Facebook page, Talk TV 24 on Twitter. It's Twitter, not the other one. And then we're also on 2 more Twitter accounts on the Twitter Spaces, the audio. What's that called now? Social audio. And of course, Yergz Radio, wherever you get your internet radio, or at yergzradio.com. And another station that what was Yergz Media is now Mastiff Media. That's the company within the Yerger Group that does the broadcasting, social media stuff, that kind of thing. And then we've got another company. I think I'm going to start it as doing business as the Doghouse because it's a hotel. So if we're running with his dog motif. And Mastiff Media, if you listen to us on Mastiff Media affiliates, or if you're working with us on Mastiff Media affiliates, you are running with the big dogs. That's that brand new branded saying. And then lastly, on that's where I was going with all this. Our second of 3 planned stations, Rainbow Radio. And if you haven't figured out, that is indeed for the LGBT community. You can learn a little bit more. It's not really live yet, although this show does get broadcast to it. You can learn more about it by going to rainbowradio.gay. I didn't even know that was an extension for URLs. But rainbowradio.gay, that's where we're at right now with that. And still in developmental stages. We're getting there. But, and I'm doing, I'm totally not prepared for today for obvious reasons. I just launched show notes. Now, where did they go? There we are. Ten after 11 Eastern, 10 after 10 Central. Who's nervous? Well, yeah, I'm ready for the storm thing to be over. I think I'm going to just relocate for the month of August moving forward. I don't need the stress. I just don't. Uh, yeah, it's for those of you not familiar with the Friday show and are just now learning about because you haven't been hitting up the replay of the Friday show here on WDJY on Mondays. Um, our friend Joe Soul, Wolf Wolf, yeah. Um, it's one of those days, buddy. So I'm getting bronchitis, and you're gonna hear me mute my mic a couple just to clear out. Where was I going with that? Okay, so we're now starting live on 99.1 WDJY in Atlanta, 5 days a week, every day at 11 a.m. There it is. So Monday through Friday, 5 days a week, 1490 WWPR out of Bradenton and Tampa Bay will be every Friday at noon. So Friday is a 2 hour show. Today is a 2 hour show. Yes, too, Joe. Joseph saying he's excited for Rainbow Radio. Yeah, I mean, I think that's our biggest. The reason why we started that or branched out into that are really entrepreneurial reasons. I feel like local news has gone or is in the process of going away. And we're aiming to help bring that back on some level, whether we bring it back, such as the Tampa Bay, the Nature Coast, the Manatee County, south of Tampa Bay, and as well as the Atlanta area, and then any other affiliate that we add in that local market. We're working with well, we're not working with them yet, but I've got a list of other small stations that I think we could help out. And connect a network, develop a network that covers the state of Florida, southeastern United States, the whole United States. And then as we add stations, if they're ours or whatever, then we have somebody there working the board at that station or doing it remotely who at the coordinated time of the show can do the individual news as provided by apps like Newsbreak. Newsbreak.com is where you and I am, but where we can all be journalists and we can all report the news as we see it, when we see it. We don't have to we don't have to call it into somebody. We don't have to wait to learn about it later. We are the journalists. And so I utilize that. I utilize other networks with their permissions and regurgitate their story. You can find out where I found it from because every episode, and we'll be much more aggressive with this starting today, but every episode has show notes that will be available at yergz.com. Go to my website, yergz, YERGZ.com. Click on the up the middle tab, and one of the subfolders on that tab will be show notes. Scroll down to, if you're looking for that day, it's going to be the one at the top. The numbering system is 2 digits for the year, then 2 digits for the month. Like, for example, August is 08. We keep that place for when October, November, December come along. And then 2 digits for the date. So this week we're going to have 240805 through 240809 is what Friday's date will be. UTM is abbreviation for up the middle. And I'll either say up the middle or UTM, but so you know. And then each day with UTM will be the day of the week: Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. First thing is the network, and that's where you can find us. The next section is where we're applying to, and that's, like I just said, we're working with some other stations or talking with some other stations in effort to develop our network, the Yerg's Radio Network. And that doesn't mean we own the station. That's a part of it. That's not what I'm saying. It just means that they've agreed to collaborate with us, and we have the same or similar interests, business models. Purpose, whatever. And again, because of the weather, other necessities, today I'm doing some of this show prep right now. Hang out to the end. One of the things we're going to do every day as well is like some bigger story at the end. We're going to talk about it, during the show too. Today, as you have probably figured out, it's going to be one of two. And that's going to be either Hurricane Debby or the recently failed markets throughout Asia and Europe. And our own markets here starting down as well too. That's all based apparently on the less than, I mean, it's still good. It's how many months in a row, how many quarters, and now how many years where we've had positive job growth every month. 140 some thousand jobs were created in July. And that's bad. That's a small city. Where I'm from, the city of Reading was something like 85 or 90,000. And Reading's a decent sized city. We're almost twice that at 140,000 and change. And that's not good. I think that should be showing you just how good the economy actually is. As I've said before, Joe Biden ain't my first choice. I don't know that he was my 18th choice or whatever the number was back in 2020. He's not a bad guy. It's just that one, I said back then that he deserves a vacation. And it's like, go sit on Rehoboth Beach. You deserve it, man. But people like that, you can't tell them that. They want to go till the end. And for him, we appreciate that because he actually has a clue. I don't think he was a bad president. I don't know. I'm not saying he was not this either. I don't know that he was also number 14 out of 46. That's impressive. That being said, I know he did it. If you look at him objectively, impartially, you have to admit he got a lot done. Whether you like what he got done or not, doesn't matter. He said he was going to do it. He did it. Trump was not like that. He's just not. You think things were good when he was here? I can show you that's not the case. Oh, but prices were cheaper and I could afford gas and this, that, and the other thing. No, it's no different. It's no different. I have a photo. Maybe I'll remember to put this in the show notes. What my dad sent me. And it was the price of gas. It's a photo of his truck. He's getting a photo of my nephew who's sitting or standing at somewhere. I have to look at it. But he's at the truck. And, my mom and dad love my niece and nephew. They're my brother's two kids are the only grandparents until recently. I adopted my son, Zach. And I don't even tell people that anymore. I just, explaining why we got one later in life who's now 19. I only would tell people that I adopted him because that would be the only way that you would know for certain that he wasn't, quote unquote, mine. Which means, I love telling people that he's mine. He reminds me of me. He's a sly son of a bitch. He's no dummy. He tries shit. Sometimes he gets away with it, and I catch it later, and I laugh. Sometimes I want to punt him. But my nephew is in this photo. And in the background was the prices of gas for the gas station that my dad and my nephew were parked at. My nephew was about 8 years old in that photo, where the price of gas was $3.20 some cents change. My nephew is now 20 years old. It was 12 years ago. The price of gas is no different now than what it was then. I was at a networking event and I talked to a former oil company exec who asked me, he says, do you know what has to happen for the price of gas to plummet? Not to drop, to plummet. And those companies will still be making billions per fiscal quarter. So I'm thinking, like, what has to, like, do we need, is this, and I start stuttering like I just did. And I go, well, do we need to have any sort of continued balance as this incident, this whatever happens? And he says, no, there will be balance with or without this activity. So I had no idea what he was talking about. I mean, I know what we were talking about, but I had no idea what it was that the oil companies had to do to cause this nice, lovely equilibrium in society. And the oil executive takes his hand and mimics sorry, I get this like spot in the back of my throat. It gets like dry. The oil executive mimics turning on a faucet. And he says, that's all you need to do. Turn on a faucet. And that faucet, of course, is oil. And sometimes it creeps up on you. You don't have a chance to mute the mic. Sorry about that, gang. I think I should switch from the coffee. Like, Every voice coach I've got said too. That's it. Turn on the faucet. We're not low in reserves, depending on, regardless of what Republican loudmouth pieces are telling you. To be fair to that, the release of whatever million of barrels of reserves isn't going to do much because it's not enough, which is why we need to turn on the faucet. Yes, electrical cars are on their way. They've been on the way. If you haven't seen that yet, crawl out from underneath the rock that you call home. Pete and company are not trying to make them all mandatory and perfect and amazing for tomorrow. They're doing it for tomorrow, for in the future. And they recognize that there will be a gradual process by which that change takes place, if it takes place. Maybe they'll never develop a pickup truck, battery powered, strong enough to be a real pickup truck. So they'll still have gas combustion. But to fill that gas tank, the only thing that needs to happen is that flick of the wrist, twisting of the wrist, turning on the spigot. Another thing I just realized, for those of you watching on video, I hope you like the American flag, the blue microphone on the left, the desktop microphone that's on the left, and the red desktop microphone that's on the right, as it reflects the ends of the political spectrum, and the words up the middle in purple in the middle. That is our show's logo. Never took it down, so you have not seen me yet. We got right to talking, and as always, I got right to rambling. And now there's the camera, and apparently I've not turned on the virtual camera yet. There we go. Hi, everybody. And a shout out to all of you in a car. I don't know why the hell you're there. Well, maybe because it's in Atlanta. Get to where you're going. Stay there. Back up, go home. Do what you got to do. You're about to have some fun. And I don't mean that literally, but I do mean it. New logo for up in the top corner of the screen. I have to, I can't read it there because it's too small. There we go. This program is rated R by the Yergs Broadcasting Association of America. Contains mature adult content, and we will. Kids are not going to be for every part of the conversation that we're going to have, and that's kind of a must sometimes. Not appropriate for minors or adults with a large stick up their ass. I stole that the moment I saw it. I think it's Tom Woodard. Shout out to Tom. So we're also recording today just on the emergency that I can't stay around for the second hour. I got to get a lot of beach towels out and start sopping up my house. Oh, God, I hope not. I've one of the plans for Shea Yergs, the home of Yergs, I want to add on to my garage and build a second floor. I think it's got to be like 18 feet up. Bring it. We will just camp out up there. There will be a generator. We'll still be able to come to you every day. It might suck, but yeah, I just don't want to have this anxiety. And once I build that, I can reach out to neighbors and say, hey, Don't stay in your. Most of us have 1-story homes, so when a dahlia came right up to the back door, and that was at low tide. Thank God, Italia was slightly faster, and it got here when it did. For us, I mean, people up in the Big Bend, I think it's called, where the state of Florida goes from the peninsula to the panhandle. They got decked like 12 feet of water. There was a stop sign that the weathermen were betting would not be there when the water receded. And lo and behold, it actually was. I think there's like some plaque or something at that stop sign. One of the towns up on the Big Bend. So I guess if I'm giving you an email, I should probably be checking it. Which means I'm probably gonna have to leave it up somewhere. I played around with a bunch of different ideas, and I know how I want this to go. But in light of recent events with the weather, I've not exactly been as well prepared for day one of our new gig as what I'd like to be. News, NEWZ, at Yergz, YERGZ.com. You can also call us, give us a call, 1-888-88-YERGZ. Just spelled that for you, but in case you need it again, it's YERGZ. Don't be shy. Just want to get your name and roughly where you're at so we can talk to you accordingly. I'm not looking for ID. I'm not going to tell your boss you're staying home. Or your wife. Or your husband. Okay, so what news can we find? You know, it's 11:32. I do actually need to take a break. Let's do that. When we come back, we will now we're getting a call. I know this one. Joe, hang tight. I'll give you a call back when we're ready. 99.1 WDJY, WWPR, Yergz Radio Network. We'll be back after this. Maybe. Smell nasty. Do you want to freshen it up a little bit? Go to aromabypeter.com. Check out all of Peter's candles. It's what we burn here in Studio Yergz. I'm burning right now leather scented candle. That's right, leather scented. So go to aromabypeter.com/Yergz and check out his candles today.
I'm Jane Stahl, retired English teacher, and with my BFF, Susan Bebeck, we manage Studio B Fine Art Gallery in Boyertown, Pennsylvania. We showcase the art of hundreds of local artists, publish books of the poetry, prose, and art of local writers, offer classes, art parties, workshops, discussion groups, cater dinners. We've even hosted a wedding. And we're here to be the go-to place for friendship, learning, and fun in our community. Virtual tours of our exhibits are available right here on Yergz Radio. Let us introduce you to some amazing art and artists.
Check out Jane Stahl and everyone at Studio B in Boyertown, Pennsylvania. Please visit our YouTube channel, Talk TV 24. How's your website doing? I'll tell you how mine's doing. It's awesome. Yergz.com is got to be the best website for anybody in podcasting or any sort of broadcast solo journalist like me. How did I get that? Limit Break Digital. Limit Break Digital did my website with Yergz.com. They did YergerGroup.com. They take care of my marketing, my branding, and help me get the message out to you. Go to limitbreakdigital.com/Yergs for 10% off your next project. That's a $3,000 site, Yergs.com. And you can get 10% off that by just going to limitbreakdigital.com/Yergs today. Talk to Jay. That's my guy. We all got a guy, and Jay's mine. limitbreakdigital.com. Hey gang, it's Yergs. Right now, our country is about to embark on yet another controversial presidential election. I have an actual question, legitimate question, as a political scientist and historian by education. If you are a Trump supporter, I want to hear from you. I want to know what your appeal to Donald Trump is at this time. Please email me news, N-E-W-Z, at yergs.com. News, N-E-W-Z, at yergz.com. Thanks. Participants must be willing to provide their contact information, answer a series of questions, and then have their first name broadcast over the radio and social media relevant to Up the Middle.
From iHeart Podcasts.
What in the hell is going on in here?
Everyone has their limits.
I'd never confronted a situation like this.
The numbers were being inflated and lied about and conflated.
I just thought it was just a really terrible, immoral thing for him to do.
A line they won't cross.
I was stunned, and I just said to him, no.
We're killing people. What exactly are we doing here?
I remember him saying, in this 007 evil villain kind of way, this is the beginning of a process.
You may never have to face that decision. When you find yourself at that line,
Thoughts racing, hearts racing, emotions are all over the place.
They could be harassed, they could be imprisoned, they could be killed.
Somebody needs to just, for once, give everybody the whole truth.
I'm like, this is evil.
and the only person who can sound the alarm is you.
She folded it up, put it in her pantyhose, and walked out of the building.
Yeah, I really am the world's dumbest criminal.
These are the whistleblowers.
I wasn't just going to sit silently by.
I was told you take your questioning black self and get it on up out of my facility because you're trouble.
The message is, if you are disloyal, if you speak out, you will pay.
This is what it's like when the president decides he wants to destroy you.
Bad things are going to happen to him. You're anti-American. You are a disgrace to our country. He should be prosecuted.
When power corrupts, conscience is the last line of defense.
Is it ever too late to do the right thing?
We talk about institutions, but they're really about individual people.
The responsibility drops in everybody's lap.
I'm Miles Taylor. The Whistleblowers premieres Thursday, July 13th on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Check out Miles Taylor and the Whistleblowers. I've referenced that plenty of times throughout Up the Middle, Both Sides Now, and Yergs Tonight. He does an excellent job telling the stories of various people who blew the whistle on the Trump administration and their reasons why, personal and professional, as well as the consequences that these people paid to get the truth to the public. Check out the Whistleblowers on Apple, iHeart, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. The July date that he mentioned is from 2023, and season 1 is complete. It's excellent, and it's still very relevant, probably now more than ever. So I certainly recommend that you give it a look. See you again. Oop, there we go. All right, so yeah, it looks like it's coming up a little bit. So this is going to get interesting. Had a friend call a minute ago, actually before we went to the break, and I told him I'd call him back, and he didn't hear that, so he called during the break. I'm like, dude, hang on, I'll get to you. Let's do that. See what he's up to.
Hey, yours, what's up?
Hey, how's everything? You're on the air.
Just chilling, man. Just chilling, doing my thing. You know how it is.
Yeah. So where are you at?
I am in Olympia, Washington.
Oh, so you're getting heat. You're not getting hurricanes.
It's no. It's nice and cool here now. So.
Oh, nice.
But we've been getting a lot of heat. So.
Yeah, you had.
No, man, right? I've been worried about you with the hurricane.
Yeah. So the hurricane itself is gone. But if you know what a hurricane does, it's a low pressure system of air, and it's a more intense, and I'm being very general, but it's a more intense low pressure system of air. And it rotates counterclockwise. And so when it rotates in that direction, obviously there's wind with it, air movement, and it moves whatever it grabs a hold of. And when you live on the coast, that's water. When Idalia came through here, it came through for us at low tide. And the direction, well, it came through at low and high tide, but the direction of it, when we were at high tide, it was actually pulling water out.
Wow.
And up until now, up until low tide earlier this morning, it was doing the same thing. So low tide yesterday, we lucked out. Low tide last night, about 2 or so in the morning, we lucked out. Low tide today is at like 1:30 in the afternoon. I'm sorry, back up. High tide at 2 o'clock yesterday for us and 2 o'clock this morning for us. We lucked out because the wind direction was pulling water away from the coast.
Oh, well, that's good. See, out here, all we have to worry about is the big earthquakes. And if the big earthquake happens, we're done.
Yeah.
So,
low tide.
Otherwise
it was pushing water in, but it was low tide. So since 7 or so this morning, low tide looks like high tide. But because of how the wind is not changing, because this thing hit land up in the panhandle, and it's essentially stalling. It's down to like 10 miles an hour.
Just sitting there.
And it's a 400-mile long storm. We're getting
too much for me.
We're getting the 6 o'clock position of that counterclockwise swing. So with water being to our west and the winds coming out of the west, it's pushing it. Oh, I got to get my dog outside.
Sure.
I'll be right back, everybody. My dog has digestive issues. This is a great first show. Jesus. My dog has digestive issues and he can't help it. It's not his fault. But he's got it's got what's called mega esophagus, which means he can't really digest food as well. And he just threw up all over a carpet that was given to me by the King of Morocco.
Oh, of course. Of course it was the King of Morocco carpet.
And I don't know why he does this, but it's always on that.
That poor carpet.
It's
reminds
not like
me of the prayer rug I brought back from Iraq. It got puked on by a dog.
It's not like it's not like he pukes on the tile floor, the fake hardwood floor that the carpet's sitting on. No, he's got a puke on that area rug.
Oh dear.
And I know that if I would have been able to get him for a walk earlier, he'd have been able to go to the bathroom and this wouldn't have happened. But he's not going out in the rain. He's pretty. He's a 110 pound Italian Mastiff that doesn't want to go outside.
Yeah. He thinks he's a show dog.
He's the big dog now that his older brother passed away a little over a year ago, which sent me into my past year of counseling and depression and anxiety. But yeah. So obviously I'm going to need to take yet another commercial break. Sponsors are going well today.
That's good. It's a good thing. Yeah, I'm really excited about your projects. Just really stoked to hear about Rainbow Radio getting off the ground. And
so I wanted to do that. I wanted to do that like right at Pride. And we kind of sort of did, but it just proved to be way too much. And so I had to pull back on it. And yeah, I had to pull back on it and just, I mean, we're broadcasting to it now, but then, and one of some of my other shows do it as well, but that's it. They don't, there's nothing 24/7 on it right now. We're just doing it to really test to make sure that it's still up and running. And then for bragging rights that we get to say we're on another station.
Which is always important. I mean,
yeah.
I took a little hiatus from my podcast, but I'll be going back at it soon. So,
what was yours again?
It's the War Dove channel on YouTube.
That's
War
right.
Dove.
Yep, that's right. I did finally look at that.
Yeah, it's still in its early stages.
That's all right. That's all right. Let me get to that break. Let me get this carpet outside so it doesn't stick up the house. And then we'll be back after this, gang. WWPR in Bradenton, Tampa Bay. WDJY 99.1 FM in Atlanta. It's Yerg's Radio and up the middle. We'll be back after these words. Do you have a podcast? Of course you do. It's probably one of the reasons why you listen to us. Well, I got something for you. Flowsend.ai. All you do is take your pre-recorded data, click, drag, and drop right into the inbox for Flowsend AI. Click a button, and out comes everything that you're going to need. From the transcript to content, such as keywords, titles for your episode, the timeline, posts for LinkedIn, posts for Twitter, Instagram, other smaller platforms, all the things that it takes you hours to do in literally minutes. So go to flowsend.ai. Tell them Yerg sent you and get your subscription today. Worth every penny. Flowsend.ai. All right, gang. So we're getting ready for a high tide that's going to suck. So I think what I'm going to do is, because this is recording, I'm going to play the first hour and the second hour because I got a house to save. Unfortunately, it's starting to crawl up. We've got about an hour and a half till high tide. And in theory, that should be the worst part. It's some of the other seawalls in the neighborhood are lower, and it's already breached them. Mine's higher, thank God. And then there's a slope from there up to the house. But I'm going to put sandbags at there's sandbags at the one back door. There's sandbags at another back door, or will be, and that's what I got to go shore up. This is awesome for anxiety, isn't it? If I can get this settled, I'll cut the first hour and come back live. We'll be back tomorrow, in theory, I hope. Pending any severe damage. We may also be back on, or more regular, on 1490. We're trying to make that happen, actually. But 1490 has some programming there already that would get in the way of our 11 a.m. hour. And we can't do that to the other shows. We're not that cool yet. But yeah, I would have by now also gone through some more local news. Obviously, that is Hurricane Debby, who is now in the Panhandle and moving towards Georgia. Just see where she's at. Perry, Florida, is where this one reporter is. I get a lot of my stuff from the Weather Channel, WFLA here in Tampa. And then that cone of uncertainty, once it hits land, it widens out. Covers like all of North Carolina and about a couple hundred miles into the Atlantic. I think it's really wide again. But, see if there's any audio with this. Yeah.
Again, Debby now this afternoon and tomorrow morning moving across Georgia, the center of it, with, of course, a lot of heavy rain, and then lingering through much of the week. There is Friday, still the center, probably in South Carolina in 4 days' time.
The big question, why is Debby going to slow down and stall? Let's break it down. Debby is being steered by the upper level winds and is stuck between the Bermuda High to the east and the high pressure developing across the southern U.S. Notice the jet stream, which is a current of fast moving winds in the upper levels, is displaced well to the north, unable to help Debby move northward. So Debby has lost its steering currents and has nowhere to go but to stall for several days. Slow-moving or stalling tropical systems can impact a larger area over a longer period of time compared to a fast-moving system. Heavy rain will last for days, resulting in major flooding. Many people focus on the category of a hurricane or the intensity of a tropical system when the forward speed is just as important. Research has shown that slow-moving systems result in much higher rainfall totals. The flood threat is going to be the biggest threat from Debby going forward, especially across Florida, Georgia, and South Carolina. Latest storm surge forecast has the highest surge or piling up of water above the ground around the Big Bend of Florida and then along the southeast coast. Historic rain totals of 10 to 20 inches and isolated totals as high as 30 could lead to catastrophic flooding across Georgia and South Carolina this week. Words like historic and catastrophic aren't used often and must be taken seriously. Rivers, creeks, and streams will be running fast and high and will likely result in flooding as well. If asked to evacuate, please do so. It may save your life. People often underestimate the power of water. Remember, most fatalities associated with tropical systems are due to water, whether that is from storm surge or flooding from heavy rain. Hurricane Debby will move across Florida Monday and will slow down as it moves inland, allowing tropical storm force winds to be felt over a large area from Florida to Georgia up into the Carolinas. Storm surge will be maximized in areas that see the southeasterly winds the longest, allowing water to pile up in places like Savannah and Charleston. Debby is expected to stall near the southeast coast for days, which could result in catastrophic flooding across southeast Georgia and eastern South Carolina. Notice the highest threat for flooding extends far inland, away from the coastline. 10 to 20 inches of rain is likely to fall in the areas in pink, and some locations could see up to 30 inches of rain in just the span of a few days. Isolated tornadoes will also be a possibility along the Georgia and South Carolina coast Monday and Tuesday.
So Atlanta is further inland and isn't going to get like the flooding as much as Savannah will. But what I'm going to do is best views on cyberplay. Yeah, can't help you. Checking out the chat and making sure we're talking to everybody. What I'm going to do is get ready. I can see water creeping up a little bit, so I'm going to go do that back door.
You'll have to take my word for it. The street is Dock Street. The location is Cedar Key, and between, well, where we happen to be, where we stand, over to the far side, you'll notice that we've got quite a bit of water coming in right from the bay. Compliments of this system, which continues to just push wave after wave through. We have a little bit of a break in the action, but every now and then you'll have a towering one that comes in right over the railing and just pushes on over towards a lot of the other foliage you see across the street. But yeah, it's going to be pretty much like this in a lot of places. One thing you need to consider too is that you have one two-lane highway that leaves Cedar Key and goes back into the mainland. And I would imagine with the strong winds we expect overnight and into tomorrow, probably going to see some tree damage. With the tree damage, you're going to have blocked roadways. Again, roadways not blocked by water like this one, but ones that could be tough to pass.
The Saffir-Simpson scale is a wind scale that uses maximum sustained wind speeds to determine the category of a hurricane. This scale estimates potential property damage due to wind only. A Category 1 storm can damage homes, snap trees, and topple power lines. A Category 2 hurricane will result in many trees being snapped, blocking roads, and power outages could last days to weeks. A hurricane becomes a major hurricane when winds reach 111 miles per hour. Expect major damage to homes at this point, and electricity and water could become unavailable for days to weeks after the storm hits. Catastrophic damage will occur when a hurricane reaches Category 4 or Category 5 intensity. Most well-built homes will be destroyed, and power outages could last for weeks or months, making for a long recovery ahead. The most important takeaway here, is that the Saffir-Simpson scale does not account for flooding from heavy rain or storm surge, which are often the deadliest threats with a landfalling hurricane.
During tropical season, we've all seen these forecast cones, but it may not be telling you the entire story. That forecast cone is for center point, but the impacts of a tropical system may extend well beyond that center of circulation. Things like the winds, for example, which can extend in some tropical systems up to hundreds of miles beyond the center of circulation, impacting some areas that may not even be in the path. And then there are things like storm surge, which is a very complicated part of the forecast. It depends on the strength of the storm, the size of the storm, the bathymetry, angle of approach. It's a lot that goes into it. But that cone may not tell you where the strongest storm surge may be felt. Also things like rainfall. Some of the heaviest rain from tropical systems can extend well beyond the landfall, and it may not line up directly with that.
But also some very strong gusts that have knocked off parts of the roof here, 30 to 40 miles per hour as those bands continue to sweep through. Second one, water getting deep out here as we
this guy's
here, this,
at Hudson
wall,
Beach.
this brick wall continues to gush
here.
in. We've seen it higher, we've seen it lower, and this is one of the biggest things that residents here in Hudson Beach are worried about living along the canals.
Not too bad today. Compared to last year's storm, not bad at all. Last year we were standing here and actually getting blown back about 20 feet.
Hudson residents slightly less worried about Hurricane Debby than when they went to sleep last night, waking up to minimal damage in their area this morning.
We've been through lots of storms. We woke up this morning with power, no trees on the house, no trees crossing the road. I think we did good in our area.
Some neighbors did put down sandbags. Others said they were up early, watching the canal water creep up and down.
If it's just starting to come in, it's going to be all up here. And if it's going out, well, that's a godsend, but it's going to come back.
Again, the water out here, one of the most significant worries here in Hudson Beach, as many of the residents live on the water, near the water, close to the water, something that they're going to be continuing to watch as that surge continues to rush in at times, especially with the high tide today, something that they are going to be watching. Of course, the wind is calm right now, but at times, as those bands continue to make their way through, as Hurricane Debby continues to rush across the state, the residents here in Hudson Beach are going to be monitoring it, and we will continue to monitor it and bring you the latest updates, both on air and on the WFLA app. In Hudson Beach, Trevor Sahaki, 8 on your side.
So there we go. I noticed the same thing that when I came to, I got very little sleep last night. I got a little bit right before high tide, which was like 2:30 in the morning or so. Got up and saw that it really wasn't as effective yet. And that's because of the wind direction that I was trying to explain earlier without getting too stressed out. The clock direction, or the wind direction, is what really helps determine damage from storm surge, or if you get storm surge. And ours was, we were at the lucky time during yesterday afternoon and last night's high tides. Today's high tide it's going to get closer. So we've got more than 1 hour down. In Atlanta, we will be with you in 2 hours on Mondays. I got a little bit. What I'm going to do is put this weather channel back on and go see if I can get that done, and then come back and see how we do. It's 12:07 on 99.1 WDJY. We'll be back. I'll be back. Here you go with the Weather Channel.
Track. So the next time you see a forecast cone, just know that it's not telling the entire story.
The speed that a hurricane or tropical storm moves is important, and we're talking about forward speed. Slow-moving storms, for example, say one that's moving at 5 miles per hour, is going to crawl along, possibly dumping 30 inches because the storm's basically staying in the same area hour after hour. Compare that to, say, a faster forward speed of 20 miles per hour, a storm may dump 5 inches of rain. To further expand on the rapid rainfall dangers, several studies have been conducted showing the majority of hurricane deaths were from rainfall flooding and storm surge, which is why it's important to understand the different threats individually, but also how they combine to create even more problems. So with that, let's talk about wind. When a tropical system doesn't move on, that means anything in the impact zone will deal with intense winds for a long stretch of time as well. And also when storms push water on shore for long periods of time, that water can really pile up, and underneath, there may be some significant beach erosion. Some tropical systems undergo what's called rapid intensification, and what's happening is the wind speeds jump 35 miles per hour or more in 24 hours. There are a number of things that can trigger rapid intensification, including warm sea surface temperatures, which add moisture to fuel the storm. Another thing that plays in, which is more complicated, is wind shear. And what's complicated is it's always changing. Less shear can aid in the growth of a storm, but some storms can strengthen even with moderate shear, while others will weaken and eventually get torn apart. There is still so much being studied when it comes to rapid intensification, but we do want to leave you with this map of some real-life examples of recent hurricanes that underwent rapid intensification.
Tropical cyclones that form near the Cabo Verde Islands off the coast of Africa are called Cabo Verde type storms, and they're steered to the west around the Bermuda High, which sets up in the Atlantic in the summer. Water temperatures, of course, being warm helps with development, usually not as warm as it is this time of year. Also, we could see dry air, dry dusty air from the Sahara, as well as wind shear that could inhibit development, and if high pressure is weak, the storm could turn out to sea. But looking at you, Beryl, that didn't happen. Beryl is the earliest Category 4 and 5 storm to form in the Atlantic since 1851. That's when records started. And it's not the only Cabo Verde type storm, of course, to impact the United States. But Irma, yeah, that was one that devastated parts of the Lesser Antilles before making a landfall in Florida and then continuing into the Midwest in 2017. You may have heard the term eye wall replacement cycle. This is when a new eye begins to develop around the old eye. Eventually, the new eye ends up replacing the old inner eye. The strength of the hurricane weakens, but once a new eye takes over, the hurricane may re-strengthen. To back up a little bit, let's explain a couple of basics, including pointing out what the eye looks like, as well as the eye wall and the rain bands, which are the clouds and thunderstorms that trail away from the eye wall. In this particular recap, you can see where a new eye is starting to develop around the old eye, but then the old eye erodes before a new one forms. The new eye wall makes room for more convection and energy. It can spread the hurricane force winds out over a larger area, meaning even more places could see damage from the storm. However, keep in mind the timing of eye wall replacement cycles is difficult to predict.
The cone of uncertainty represents the probable track of the center of a tropical cyclone, not the definite track, the probable track. The storm center could move right along the middle of the cone, but it could also go to either edge, the left side or the right side. And when you see that cone getting wider, guys, it's not necessarily because the storm's going to get bigger, but it's telling us there's more uncertainty the further out into the future that we look. And you really should also think about the track of the storm as one thing and the size of the storm as another. With large storms, there can be impacts really far away from the center of the storm and well beyond the cone. Invests are weather systems that sometimes become depressions or storms. Invest is short for investigation. Once the National Hurricane Center declares an invest, computer models will be run to look at future track possibilities as well as the potential future intensity. Sometimes, to get even more detailed information, the hurricane hunters will schedule a mission to go in and see what the circulation status is. However, there have been many cases where with additional data, it's determined that a system will wind up being nothing to worry about.
We're now kicking off what will likely be one of the busiest hurricane seasons, and here are a few things you should know before it gets going. Most forecasts point toward this being an extremely active and impactful season. We've already had a couple of tropical waves cross the Atlantic. Through October or November, we usually see around 60 such waves that can go on to become major hurricanes. Tropical waves will have an easier time developing this year due to record-setting ocean warmth already ongoing from the Gulf of Mexico to Africa. Less wind shear and sinking air will weaken storms this season due to La Niña. After Alberto, we will likely see a second A storm this season. A 22nd storm will begin a second list of names, beginning with Adria.
Well, it's not your imagination. Hurricane season in the Atlantic is starting up earlier and earlier. That's the conclusion of a new study which actually ties a lot of it to climate change. Now, since 1979, the first named Atlantic storm has been occurring about 5 days earlier on average per decade. Why 1979, you might ask? Well, that's when new technology started to allow us to better track these things with planes and satellites. As for the role of climate change, it's all about the sea surface temperatures, which are, of course, increasing along with global warming. This is the average temperature April to May, which was 77.5 degrees 4 decades ago, but now it's above 79. And that's important because 79 degrees is the temperature we always talk about water temps needing to be at for tropical development. Now, currently Atlantic hurricane season runs from June to November, but the Weather Service is actually considering moving that up a couple of weeks to May 15th, which this new study definitely supports.
Did you know rainfall flooding has recently been the single deadliest hurricane threat? Water threats continue to make up more than 80% of all storm fatalities. In 2017, several feet of rainfall from Hurricane Harvey killed 65 people in Texas. Even tropical storms have produced enough rain to kill dozens of people. Flooding fatalities can occur hundreds of miles from where a hurricane makes landfall. Hurricane Ida drowned people in New York City more than 1,000 miles away from the storm's landfall point. Storm surge remains another serious killer. Ian's surge caused more than half of the storm's direct death toll. It's important to remember, hurricanes can also be deadly before and long after they hit land.
So, I'm sweaty. So here's what's happening. Debby is now back down to a tropical storm. That's good news. Winds are not really slowing down as much as I think we would all love. I just lost 2 of my monitors. There they are. I don't know how that happened. Yeah, because that's all I need yet. Everything die on me. So Debby is down to a tropical storm. For those of you in Georgia, it's not going anywhere. Those of us here in north central Florida on the West Coast, Gulf Coast, also, from Tampa Bay and north, also problematic in that I'm out of breath. In that the tides are still going to be kind of a pain in the rear. And I'm so proud of myself for watching my language. I think I dropped the S-bomb one time today. But see if we're still, I don't know how long that's been that we had that amount of dead air. Sorry about that, everybody. Oh, yeah. Cool. Still on Atlanta. Hey, everybody. Still on social media. I killed 2 Twitter accounts, the Twitter Spaces, just because I'm starting to break down. I mean, I think I'm going to make it the rest of today's show. Look at me. But, wow. Yeah, I do think we might be drinking early today. I'm not going to lie. And it's not like I got to resort to alcohol. That's not it at all. It's just that I got to resort to alcohol. That makes a lot more sense than what. No, I say shit like that. Oh, sorry. I say things like that to be funny, knowing that friends and family suffer from addiction. And when you suffer from addiction, your family suffers with you. Whether you, they, or the rest of the world like it or not. So I'm not. Cops. Oh, there's a jet ski in the middle of the street. Yeah. When Adalia was here last year, I wanted to go out. I wanted to load up my ski with my cooler, water, soda, Gatorade, and go help people. But there was so much debris. It wasn't safe. It wasn't practical. For those of you that don't know what a jet ski does, it sucks water in underneath, which is like the worst place for any debris to be, whether you have a jet engine or a prop. It sucks water in underneath and forcefully spits it out the back, and that's what propels you. Well, I can't be zigzagging around all kinds of debris because you only see a little bit. When water's contaminated, trashed, with so much debris from a storm, you only see what's floating on the top. What you don't see is what's been floating for a while is now waterlogged and is partially submerged. So that's why I'm thinking the center console. I want to get this is like a camper on the water. So I can go tie up to a key, like a small, or a spit is what it's called, like a small, very small island. And just, spend the day, barbecue, eat a sandwich. I don't drink on the water at all. And that's part of it, is to have a cocktail or a beer. Nope. No. And I know I made a joke that would contradict that just a few minutes ago, but no. I've lost 2 friends to DUI accidents. I've seen other lives amazingly hindered from DUI arrests. And yeah, no, it's just not worth it. I can wait till I get home. Sit on the porch swing that's on my seawall. Watch everybody else come home. But yeah, I can see water claims more people during hurricanes than any other singular threat. But a new killer has, what is that new killer? Oof. Down to 8 miles an hour. That's not even a cone. It is so funny.
But it doesn't matter if it strengthens a little bit once it comes back out over the water, because it's going to not move much and bring the heavy rain that has all along been the big hazard for us across parts of the Carolinas. So what we've got here is, again, Debby now this afternoon and tomorrow morning moving across Georgia, the center of it, with, of course, a lot of heavy rain, and then lingering through much of the week. There is Friday, still the center, probably in South Carolina in 4 days' time.
The big question, why is Debby going to slow down and stall? Let's break it down. Debby is being steered by the upper level winds and is stuck between the Bermuda High to the east and the high pressure developing
or had hoped or any of that. But there were still positives, ultimately. To be fair, they also presented 30 things that Trump did that were positive. So I had to adjust a microphone. Most of which, are you ready for this? Were things that happened without his control and against his wishes, and were things he said he wouldn't do. He enhanced Obamacare, having said he'd repeal it. And the enhancements were legitimate improvements. That's not good for him. So what you don't have is the in-party fighting. Almost, when Biden was still in it, there was respect for him, even as they were saying he needed to head toward the door. You can see there's not respect for Trump. There's fear. And that will only last Trump for so long. I'm fascinated by the fact that after they finally got him out in 2020, and I say they, meaning the Democrats, perhaps, and Republicans behind the scenes. I mean, every vote counts, right? Nobody knows what happens inside those curtains. Just you and a ballot. But back to Mike Pence, I don't know what the outcome was because, again, getting ready for a hurricane and trying to get a show together, he was proposed with the option of endorsing Kamala Harris. And I'm like, why not? You've already said you can't endorse Trump. There's nothing worth voting for in the Trump campaign. Even Mike Pence, his political agenda were for two things: stop abortion and stop gay rights. Funny side story. My last assignment at the Washington field office in Washington, D.C. was Reagan Airport. And the Pence children and families and friends were not entitled to fly on an Air Force aircraft. Air Force Two, Air Force One, they are not an aircraft. They are the aircraft owned by the Air Force, assigned to the Vice President and President, respectively. Air Force Two to the VP, Air Force One to the man, for now. When they are on that mission. In other words, there's a fleet of 747s and 757s and Learjets, all with the same paint scheme, all with the same overall look and feel. I know it sounds like a website. And essentially all the same mission. For purpose of carrying government VIPs on official business. And so the second lady gets that if she's on official business. If she's running around touting the accomplishments of her husband and his boss. If they're going on vacation, they can't use that. They got to be with the VP. And even he, I think, has to schedule something official of sorts at the destination. So I would see Mother, as she's known. I don't even remember her first name, Mrs. Pence, at the airport with her daughter, waiting for flights to fly in and out, waiting on friends and family to visit. However, and I became one of her favorite agents. Even after she found out I was gay, which she's not a fan of, I remained one of her favorite agents. I see how she treats her own shift, and I saw how she treated me. It's not that hard. And I say one of her favorite agents, having no idea I might be one of 20 that she actually really likes. But she tolerated me easily. So his political goals were to remove gay rights and to remove the right to choose. So this 2025 thing, kind of, sort of, up his alley. And even he said, wow. So why not? Look, here's how you have to look at this, Republicans. And for the record, by the way, I know I've said this and you would have caught it maybe on the recorded episodes that you hear on a Monday prior to today. But now I'm going to outright say it, and you're going to hear me say it 1,000 times between now and November 5th. And that's an ironic date, by the way. Look up the poem November, the 5th of November. Remember the 5th of November. About the gunpowder treason in Parliament. From the movie, I mean, it's way older than the movie, but more recently from the movie V for Vendetta. And a guy named Guy Fawkes, Fawks or ES, something like that. Was caught trying to blow up Parliament from the tunnels beneath it. And was hanged. But our election this year is on the 5th of November. And you're going to hear me say plenty of times between now and then that I'm an independent for multiple reasons. First one wasn't necessarily the first one, but it is the most important. And that is that I can think for myself. I don't need to vote along party lines because I don't agree with a lot of them on both. There's things on the Democratic platform that I agree with and can accept and get behind. Gun control is not one of them. Some of the social plans and the spending that goes along with it, equally as ridiculous. On the other hand, I think it was something like 30% or 20% of our founding fathers were what we would call today atheists. Then the term was deist, and I guess that's still a thing today. I mean, I kind of sort of am a deist, really. Although I do believe in Jesus and God. I'm just not religious. I had a neighbor tried to talk me into coming to her church. And apparently, rainbow wristwatch, be damned, she had no idea I was gay. She actually asked me if that meant I was happy or if I lay down with other men. I said, well, we don't always lay down, but I guess it's both. She did not know what to say. I mean this, she seriously started trembling. She didn't know where to go after that. Sorry. She didn't know where to go. And I thought that was going to end the conversation. Finally, so I could get home. Get Matrix some water. Me some iced tea or something. Oh, was I wrong? Oh. I got to look that up. I want to learn more about that Mike Pence. Yeah, so Republicans for Harris member encourages Pence to endorse Harris. Your voice can make an enormous difference. Hell yeah. Former advisor to Mike Pence pleads for him to endorse Kamala Harris. Republicans for Harris rallies members of GOP to campaign for Democratic ticket. And here's, this is what I was going to say with the former VP. He's a sports guy. He's a Hoosier. This is not your year. Your team is not going to playoffs this year. You're young. You're inexperienced. Or you've got the all-stars that are too old, that are doing their thank you tour, their farewell tour. Come back next season. Get some good draft picks. Come back next season, 2028. And have at it then. Realize this is not taking unnecessary penalties, taking stupid penalties just to make the other team bleed isn't worth the fine. What I mean by that is trying to vote people in when you could vote the cancers out. So much better. Something I always say, take a higher road. You know, as far as morality, take a higher road. Yes, it's a steeper climb, but it yields a better view. My dad brought up a good point with regards to Mike Pence and what I alluded to earlier. Nobody knows. I think I said it. Yeah, I said it earlier too. Nobody knows what happens between you and that ballot when you're surrounded by curtains or when you get a divider on each side of you. It's just you and that pencil. Or you, that pencil, and the ballot. Nobody's ever going to know. When they scan your ballot, it doesn't say, ding, 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 Donald Trump. Doesn't say. Don't you find it ironic that Trump, who's proven to be a liar one statement after the next, used Lion Ted, Crooked Hillary, Crooked Joe Biden. Now it's Lion Kamala. Don't you at least want a president that's original? You might say, well, you know, I want one that's going to use what works. It didn't work a second time. Might have worked in 2016. The name calling, the negativity. I've even seen articles about that. And you know, I'm still kind of working out kinks. Usually I save things like that for the Friday show. And as always, later on today, I do have some links for what we've talked about. They will be on the show notes, available at yergs.com. Go to the up the middle tab and you'll see it up the middle, and then there's a drop down. I think there's like 4 subfolders, one of which is show notes. There's a 6-digit number that represents today's date. First 2 digits of the year. They'll be pretty self-explanatory. Then you'll see 08. That's for August. And then 2 digits for the date. And that keeps it in a numerical order. That part of my website, however, is actually maintained in order of how I put the notes in. So if I don't finish today's notes, or if I don't really have any, and then tomorrow's show will come along, we put those notes in, and then somebody said, hey, here's the link I told you about on Monday. Like, I put it in show notes for Monday. It'll be after Tuesday instead of before it, because that's just how that aspect of my website does it. So I actually did it. Almost 2 hours. I gotta see if there's any change in the tide, because we're coming up on 1 o'clock. If it's gonna crest heavy, we're close to it. But hopefully, and I want to say we should be okay by now, because it is almost 1 o'clock. That's because it's still up. It is almost 1 o'clock. And yeah, if it was going to get nasty, I would think that we would have seen more of it already. So now there's the broccoli haircut teenagers want. I guess it's like it's like a lot of hair on top. I got a ponytail. It took me a year and a half to get this damn thing. No, I'm keeping it. That was just another news break alert. So yeah, I'm rambling today. Hit me up at news, NEWZ, at yergz.com. News, NEWZ, at YERGZ. Open to any suggestions, any types of news stories you want me to follow, whether something financial, sports, which we will be adding. We'll start following the Braves, eventually the Falcons, and the Miami Heat, Atlanta. Does Atlanta still have a basketball team? I don't even know. Hockey's my thing. I know the Flames ain't there anymore. Or the Thrashers. Yeah, Thrashers, I think it was. And of course, the Bolts and the Rays, the Bucks down here in Tampa. Maybe even the Solar Bears in Orlando this winter. That's the AHL, minor league hockey. And there's God knows how much baseball, minor league baseball down here all summer. Excuse me. This has been my 3rd summer, and I still haven't made it to a minor league ball game. Taking my kid to a hockey game, football game, and a baseball game. First one was hockey. He wasn't even moved in with me yet. I took him to the playoff game. Rangers Bolts. 6 or 8 rows from the ice. That night, that little date night, cost me $1,000. But he loved it. I loved it. And we get to hang together. Then we got tickets from like one of the adoption agencies to go to the preseason game. I want to say it was last year. Maybe it was 2 years ago. One of those two. It was the game right before, the week before opening day. And then we've also been to a Rays game. Also not far from off first base, right field. I love that. I love going to the ballpark, hockey rink, especially with Zach. Great kid, good young man. Starts college next week. Oh, I'm old. But yeah, so that's. I love him. He's a good man. It's my son, my dad, and ain't gonna be much longer before I'm a granddad. I mean, he pulled a fast one the other day, and everybody involved here is of age, for the record. First night, his grandmother, yeah. Believe me, if Mimo heard about this, first night his girlfriend spent the night. I think it was the next day, or maybe it was that night. I don't remember. I think it was that night. He's taking her to the bathroom to help her get ready for a shower. And I hear the door close. Click. I hear the lock. Thinking. Is he showering too? Knowing damn well what the answer to that question was. So I laughed. I texted him later because I know they're active. I'm not stupid. And he at least tells me some things. As a parent, and parent, son, dad, son. And I'm glad for that. And I'm not going to, I almost ruined that a couple times, being the rookie parent that I am, or was. And yeah, I'm glad I have at least aspects of it back. Where we at? Yeah. All right, so we'll see you again tomorrow. We're going to start wrapping up here. 99.1 WDJY. It's around 12:57. Yep, 12:58. Boom. 99.1 WDJY Atlanta. We're now live every day, 11 a.m. Tomorrow, Wednesday, and Thursday, it'll only be an hour. Friday, we'll be back to 2 hours, but only 1 hour in Atlanta. So join us on 99.1 WDJY, YurgsRadio.com. The UG, actually, that's tape delay, as is America One Radio. AmericaOneRadio.com will also be live as soon as we figure out the different things that we need to do to make that happen. Seems like everybody uses a different system to bring another DJ in live to their network. So we got to figure out what they need from me and what I need from them, and then we'll make it happen. 1490 WWPR. We did not click over to them today, but we might. We're looking to do that as a standard in the near future. Also, we are talking with, I'm not going to say who because most of the people there don't even know it, but up in the Nature Coast and also northern Tampa Bay, Clearwater area, our goal is to develop a network from South Tampa Bay, 1490 WWPR, Bradenton and Tampa Bay area, which goes as far south as Sarasota and as far north into, we lost. We must have, I only have 11:59. No. We lost Atlanta. Okay, we'll see you tomorrow. And really, I mean, I can peace out to everybody. Point being, we're growing, and we're going to try to extend from Sarasota down around into the Keys and up to Miami and Fort Lauderdale, and then move north up through Clearwater, the Nature Coast, which is the next region after the Tampa Bay, and up into the Big Bend, where Debby hit today, and further into the Panhandle to include Tallahassee, and then Central to include Orlando, Northeast to include Jacksonville, and to the east to include Daytona Beach and the Atlantic beaches, Space Coast, and so on. But not lose focus of local news. If you want to be a part of that, let us know at on air at Yergz Radio, YERGZ radio.com. If you have any news stories or suggestions for the show, send that to news, NEWZ, at YERGZ.com. That's it. It wasn't a great first show, but all things considered, I'm glad we made it 2 hours. That's it. We'll see you again tomorrow. You've been Up the Middle.